Hello. Welcome to the audiovisual translation of the BBI Report. I am grateful for you having taken your time to come listen to this audiovisual report. This marks the beginning of Chapter 10 of 12 of the report and Annex 1, 2 and 3. Kindly note we will have the translation of the BBI report chapter after chapter until we reach the last chapter of the report. Also note, this audiovisual report is created by the use of text synthesizer, hence there might be alliteration in the pronunciation of some words, particularly Swahili words, but this is not a big issue as you can clearly decode all the wording in this audiovisual report. Kindly feel free to share the link to this report with other members of our community. Having said that, without further ado, let's jump into Chapter 10 of 12 of the report. Chapter 10. Safety and Security. 169. Kenyans told the task force that they do not feel sufficiently safe and secure. From those who represented victims of terrorism to others victimized by domestic terrorism, mistreatment at the hands of security personnel, and a lack of trust in policing, millions of Kenyans do not feel as secure as they should. The same was the view of the security experts who presented their views to the task force. As a result, the task force observes, with great concern, that we will struggle to become a truly united and prosperous country if we do not have a security system that is responsive to the needs and rights of citizens and that is trusted and embraced by them. 170. It is therefore crucial that all Kenyans and not just the security officials have a deeper understanding of the trends and dynamics driving insecurity in Kenya, the region, and the world. 171. We live in a tough neighborhood. We are building a constitutional democracy in a region beset by authoritarianism, failed states, and terrorism driven by global terrorist organizations, and, nearby, the volatile and fragile Middle Eastern states are projecting their rivalries to the Horn of Africa. We are also deepening our democracy and increasing our civil liberties at the very moment there is a global spread of ideologies of hatred, division and subjugation. 172. Non-conventional threats. Most security threats that the Kenyan state and people face are non-conventional. From irregular war to politically instigated civil strife and violence, violent extremism, organized crime, and secessionism, conventional threats are in the minority. However, even conventional threats in the form of the long-term risk of our territory being claimed by other states with an irredentist or expansionist agenda must be prepared for and deterred robustly. 173. The scale of the terrorist threat, especially when its capabilities are escalated by hostile states, is evident in its causing of state collapse in the Middle East and in large swathes of the Sahel and West Africa. An unholy alliance of transnational criminal networks and state sponsors is adding to the potency of the threat. This is not a passing phenomenon, as the last 20 years have yet to succeed global campaigns to eradicate major terrorists have shown. This is a generational challenge, and any democratic polity in a neighborhood like the Horn of Africa will need to harden itself against this form of militant ideological activity. 174. Our territorial integrity. There is also a growing sense that some countries could in time attempt to compromise the territorial integrity of Kenya. We cannot ever let that happen. It is crucial that there be strong measures to deter such attempts and that Kenya, in line with our constitution and international law, be ready to preempt any attempts to breach our sovereignty and national security. 175. Safety from enemy propaganda. In dealing with non-state threats to Kenya and Kenyans emanating from terrorist or militant organizations, we must take strong measures to ensure that their attacks and propaganda do not undermine our social and religious cohesion. Fighting terrorism effectively is therefore ultimately about safeguarding the constitutional order itself from a global enemy implacably opposed to the constitution, secular government, freedom of religion, and democracy. 176. Corruption and security. Corruption has cost Kenyan lives by enabling our enemies' planning and operations. There have been entrenched cartels and corrupt special interests in the security sector for decades. Some deny our frontline security personnel the proper equipment, allowances and support that they need to be able to protect us properly. Others so vastly inflate procurement costs while providing wrong equipment to our disciplined services that it leads to lost lives and weaker than required capabilities. 177. Ethnicity and insecurity. A trend with critical implications for our security is the persistence of ethnicity as an organizing principle of political competition. It has unfortunately turned our elections into tense affairs that require an extraordinary national security effort. That should not be the case. Organized crime and corruption cartels take advantage of this ethnic game to try and control procurement, regulation and law enforcement. All to the detriment of our security, the hopes of our people and their trust in government. 178. Conflicts between groups that sometimes accord to county boundaries are leading to significant levels of violence in various parts of the country. Each boundary dispute should receive specific and consistent attention. 179. Severe weather events. In Kenya and the region, severe weather events are increasingly having a very negative impact on the energy, water, pasture, and food nexus. This is leading to conflict and communal wars over territory and boundaries. Droughts are also undermining food security, leading to conflict-driving population movements that in turn drive conflict. Losses of pasture and livestock lead to violent restocking that is now linked to organized crime. 180. Poor disaster preparedness and response. Kenyans have become used to news of disasters that claim many lives that could have been saved if we had prompt, well-equipped, and well-structured disaster response. Many of these are entirely predictable. For instance, we know that annually there will be floods that endanger lives, and yet year after year, Kenyans are drowned. 181. Urbanization and insecurity. Our towns and cities are growing fast. Africa has by far the fastest rate of urbanization in recorded history. Yet most of this urbanization lacks industrialization. Combined with the youth bulge, this leads to a jobless, despairing youth population that is accommodating to terrorist recruitment, militant politics, and criminality. 182. A secure Kenya is not going to be won only by security personnel and institutions. Every arm of government, all ministries and county governments, as well as citizens, civil society, and the private sector, have important roles to play. Major recommendations. 183. Every life in Kenya has equal value. The value of life impacted by violence, insecurity and poor safety standards should be the same across Kenya. We must put a stop to the fact that there are different consequences in various parts of the country. A life lost to murder in the poverty-stricken Loima and Mathar should receive equal prevention, investigation, and prosecutorial attention as one in a wealthy Nairobi suburb. Making this change requires the equal distribution of policing resources, prosecutions and prevention efforts. 184. A people-owned national security strategy. Recognizing that security belongs to citizens, we need a human security approach reflected in a comprehensive national security and safety strategy every 2 years and by every incoming president within 3 months of taking office that is owned by the people in the whole of government. It should be proactive, preventive, and preemptive. 185. Lower vulnerability to resource conflicts, disasters, emergencies and food insecurity. Ensure Kenyans are less vulnerable to natural and man-made disasters and emergencies by taking the following measures. A. Operationalize a comprehensive national emergency, disaster and crisis management strategy rooted in law that is linked to county, sub-county and ward-level disaster response plans that are renewed periodically. B. Link the National Disaster Risk System to the Contingencies Fund, Article 208, in the Act establishing it. C. Put in place preemptive and prompt response strategies to common major disasters, such as flooding and drought. D. As part of the national strategy, clarify the various levels and types of emergencies whose response is led by national government and counties. These should be linked to the separate national and county contingencies funds. E. Prevent communal resource conflicts by ensuring that county boundaries are drawn to maximize sharing of water and pasture, among other resources. F. Safe food. Protect consumers of food and medicine from dangerously procured, grown, or developed products that harm their health and well-being. 186. Terrorism is a continuing risk to Kenyans that needs multiple tools to address it, not just security. Counter-terrorism will only succeed if it is powerfully linked to political, social and cultural defenses that reduce the pool of recruits and delegitimize the aims of our enemies. A. Mainstream and coordinate the prevention of radicalization and violent extremism initiatives in the ministries responsible for health, education, youth, culture and heritage, as well as other relevant governmental bodies. B. Defend Kenya against terrorists by implementing regulated protective security standards for all sectors, and particularly highly trafficked properties owned by the private sector. C. Invest in innovation and coordination to strengthen every part of the counter-terrorism system, with a focus on making Kenyan terrorism prevention, also referred to as countering violent extremism, world-class in its tools and policies. D. As the victim protection trust fund is operationalized, it should pay special attention to the victims of terrorism, whose victimization is directly intended to intimidate all Kenyans and our political, social and religious choices. E. Cybersecurity. At a minimum, we must fundamentally strengthen our national cybersecurity capabilities, particularly because our economy is increasingly digital and online. Our ambition to remain a regional financial center and for our people to find work in and through technology demands the continuous strengthening of national cybersecurity skills, processes, laws, and institutions. F. Foreign affairs. Review diplomatic relations with state sponsors of terrorism, religious extremism, and expansionism or irredentism. Ensure diplomacy is shaped and resourced to deal with the emerging threats before they demand a hard security response. It is particularly important that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in terms of budget allocation, be in the same cluster as the Department of Defense, the National Intelligence Service, and other security organs. G. Private security. Professionalize and better regulate private security companies and guards to deliver better service that is more integrated with state security and adheres to higher standards. 187. Police performance and mental health and wellness. Strengthen the performance and service orientation of the National Police Service and support the mental health and wellness of officers. A. Clarify key performance indicators for police commanders from the level of IG downward, linked to publicly reported national crime and insecurity statistics, annual crime and security report from the Ministry of Interior that is disaggregated based on counties, gender, and citizen perceptions. Link these to promotions and incentives. B. Eliminate corruption in recruitment by instituting heavy penalties for corrupting the process. C. Create a transparent human resources system that is digital and with clear guidelines and processes for promotion and transfer. The standards of promotion into leadership and management must reflect measurable past performance, including internal courses and exams, as well as citizen complaints of abuse and corruption. D. Support integrity and effectiveness in the NPS by recognizing and rewarding excellence, dedication and sacrifice by officers and citizens. E. As a matter of priority, put in place accessible and resourced mental health and wellness counseling and treatment for police officers. Particular attention should be paid to those in frontline roles that expose them to extreme trauma. All measures should also be taken to keep families together. 188. Secure citizens from personal threats. A. Redress boundary conflicts that threaten national and societal security, establish a commissions to address current boundary conflicts until they are solved. Among the areas with current boundary conflicts are Meru with Isiolo, Meru with Tharaka Nithi, Baringo Turkana, Garissa with Tana River, Kisumu with Vega, Kisumu with Nandi, Laikipia with Samburu, Turkana with West Pokot with Trans Nzoia, Nyandarua with Laikipia, Kitui with Meru, Elgeyo Marakwet with West Pokot, Makueni Machakos Kajiado. B. Protect whistleblowers. Enable court procedures that guarantee the protection of the safety and security of informants, whistleblowers and witnesses, particularly regarding terrorism, serious transnational crimes, and corruption. C. Care for pedestrians and cyclists. Every new road in an urban area should be legally required to also have a sidewalk for pedestrians and specified lanes for cyclists. Signage should be clear. D. Citizen conflict resolution. Increase citizen skills in conflict resolution and mediation throughout a Kenyan's educational life. Achieve this by including conflict resolution, negotiation and counseling skills in the curriculum of all levels of primary and secondary education. D. Prioritize combating gender and sexual violence. By focusing and resourcing specific policing and prevention measures against sexual and gender-based violence. Thank you for taking your time to listen to this audiovisual translation of the BBI Report. This marks the end of Chapter 10 of the BBI Report and the beginning of Chapter 11 of the 12 chapters, plus Annex 1, 2 and 3. If you have found this audiovisual report to be of help in understanding the BBI report, kindly share it link with other members of our community who may not have ample time to read the report but can manage to listen to this audiovisual report as they engage themselves in doing something else. Lastly, for the time it took us to compile this audiovisual report, we will be so much grateful if you can subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so that you can know when we upload the other chapters of the BBI report. Asanteni sana. See you in Chapter 11 of the BBI Report in audiovisual format. I'm Naf. And it's not yet enough till we hit the last chapter. Cheers.